The man at the gallery told me I couldn't possibly understand the painting in front of us. I painted it. I was standing in the Morrison Gallery downtown, staring at a piece I'd created 6 years ago during the worst period of my life. The painting was called Winter Morning, and I'd finished it 3 weeks after my sister died. I'd sold it for $800 to pay for her funeral flowers. Now it was hanging in a prestigious gallery with a price tag of $75,000. The man next to me had been talking for 5 minutes about the brushwork and color theory, explaining it to his companion like he was some kind of expert. He was maybe 50, expensive suit, gray hair, slicked back, the kind of person who probably attended gallery openings just to hear himself talk. Then he said it. The average person couldn't possibly grasp the emotional depth here. The artist was channeling something beyond typical human experience. You really need to have studied art history to appreciate work at this level. I turned to look at him, and something about my expression made him pause mid-sentence. I painted this, I said quietly. His face went through several emotions in quick succession: confusion, disbelief, then something that looked almost like panic before settling into a condescending smile. I'm sure you'd like to think so, but this piece is by an established artist. It's been authenticated and everything. I pointed to the bottom right corner where my signature should have been. That's my signature. My name is Kate Murphy. I painted this in January 2019 inches my apartment in Brooklyn. The man's companion, a younger woman in her 30s, pulled out her phone and started typing. The man himself was staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. The gallery listing says the artist is Catherine Morris, he said slowly. Not Murphy. My stomach dropped. I stepped closer to the painting, and that's when I noticed the first detail that was wrong. The brush strokes in the upper left corner were different, smoother, more controlled than how I remembered painting that section. I'd done this piece in a frantic burst over 3 days, barely sleeping, and my technique had been rough, emotional, imperfect, but this looked refined, like someone had gone over my work and corrected it. I checked the signature again. It said K. Morris in handwriting that looked similar to mine but wasn't quite right. The second stroke on the M was too curved. I always made it angular. The woman with the phone looked up. Catherine Morris died in 2021, she said. There's an obituary here. Says she was a reclusive artist who only sold a few pieces before her death. Her work has been increasing in value ever since. I felt dizzy. I'm not dead. I'm standing right here, and my name is Murphy, not Morris. The man was backing away slightly, and the woman had this look on her face like she was watching something she shouldn't be seeing. I pulled out my phone and searched for Catherine Morris artist. The first result was a gallery website with a photo of a woman who looked nothing like me. Different hair, different face, but similar age. The biography said she'd worked primarily in oils, lived alone, died of an aneurysm at age 32. Beneath that were photos of her paintings, and I recognized every single one. The landscape I'd done of the park near my old apartment, the still life I'd painted of my sister's coffee cup the morning after she died, the portrait series I'd worked on for months before selling them all for almost nothing because I was 3 months behind on rent. All of them were attributed to Catherine Morris. All of them were listed as sold for 5 figures or higher. The man was on his phone now, speaking quietly to someone. Security, probably. The woman asked if I was okay, but her voice sounded far away. I was scanning through more images, more paintings I'd created, all credited to a dead woman I'd never heard of. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A photo from a gallery show in 2020. Catherine Morris standing next to one of her paintings, smiling for the camera. Except it wasn't Catherine Morris in the photo. It was my old landlord's daughter, Amanda, the one who'd helped me sell my paintings when I was desperate for money, the one who'd said she knew a dealer who worked with emerging artists, the one who'd taken every piece I'd ever created and promised to find them good homes. That's when I realized what had really happened to all my work. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I'm still staring at the photo when I hear a voice behind me. Ma'am, is there a problem? I turned to see a security guard approaching, his face a careful mask of professional concern. Around us, gallery patrons have formed a loose semicircle, whispering to each other while pretending not to stare. The man in the expensive suit takes a step back, like I might be contagious. Yes, there's a problem, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. These paintings are mine, all of them. I'm Kate Murphy. I painted them, and someone is selling them under a fake name. The security guard exchanges glances with the suited man, who gives a subtle nod. Ma'am, perhaps we could discuss this privately? The guard suggests. Before I can answer, a woman in a sleek black dress approaches. Her name tag reads Elise Harmon, gallery manager. I'm sorry, but there seems to be some confusion, she says with practiced patience. These works are authenticated pieces by Catherine Morris. I dig through my purse and pull out my driver's license. I'm Kate Murphy. Look, these are my paintings. Someone stole them and is selling them under a fake name. Elise barely glances at my ID. Miss Murphy, I understand you might feel a connection to these works, but Catherine Morris was a recognized artist who doesn't exist. I interrupt, my voice rising. That's Amanda in the photo, my landlord's daughter. She took my paintings when I was vulnerable after my sister died. The gallery is completely silent now. Every eye is on me. Miss Murphy, Elise says, her voice dropping to a whisper. I think you might be experiencing some confusion. Perhaps you should seek help. I'm not confused, I say, but I can hear the desperation in my voice. Call the police if you want. I can prove these are mine. Elise's smile tightens. Actually, I think that's a good idea. 15 minutes later, 2 officers arrive. One stays by the door while the other approaches our little group. By now, most of the other patrons have moved to different parts of the gallery, though they keep glancing back. What seems to be the problem? The officer asks. Elise speaks before I can. This woman is causing a disturbance, claiming artwork by a deceased artist is actually hers. The officer turns to me. Ma'am, I take a deep breath. My name is Kate Murphy. I painted these works. Someone named Amanda has stolen my identity and is selling my paintings under the name Catherine Morris. The officer looks at the paintings, then back at me. Do you have any proof of this? My mind races. Photos of me painting? All on my old phone, which died last year. Documentation? I never kept records. I was just painting to survive, to process my grief. Witnesses? No one watched me paint paint except my sister, and she's gone. I can describe exactly how I created each piece. I offer the techniques, the materials. Anyone could study a painting and describe how it was made. Elise interrupts. Miss Murphy, if you don't leave now, we'll have to press charges for disturbing the peace. The officer's hand drifts to his belt. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. I look around at the hostile faces, at my painting hanging on the wall with someone else's signature, at the $75,000 price tag for work I sold for $800. My chest tightens with anger and helplessness. Fine, I say finally. I'll go. But this isn't over. Outside, I lean against the building, trying to catch my breath. The cold January air burns my lungs. I pull out my phone and search for more information about Catherine Morris. There are dozens of results, gallery showings, auction listings, art blogs discussing her tragically short career, and everywhere, my paintings, the park landscape, the portrait series, all of them, with prices that make me dizzy. I need evidence, proof, something concrete that shows I'm Kate Murphy, and I created those works. My old apartment building is a 30-minute subway ride away. I haven't been back since I moved out after selling most of my possessions to cover rent. When I arrive, the brick facade looks exactly the same, though the front door has been painted a different color. I press the buzzer for apartment 4B, where Mrs. Geller used to live. She was in her 80s when I lived here, always baking cookies and keeping track of everyone's comings and goings. Hello? Her voice sounds frailer than I remember. Mrs. Geller, it's Kate Murphy. I used to live in 2A. There's a pause, then the door buzzes. I find her waiting in her doorway, smaller than I remember, her white hair thinner. Kate, what a surprise. Come in, come in. Her apartment smells like cinnamon and old books. She shuffles to the kitchen to make tea while I perch on her floral sofa. Mrs. Geller, I need to ask you something important. Do you remember Amanda, the landlord's daughter? She sets down 2 mugs of tea. Of course, pretty girl, always so helpful. Did you ever see her around after I moved out? Maybe after my sister passed? Mrs. Geller's face softens with sympathy. Oh yes, dear. She was here quite often after your poor sister died. Said she was helping you pack up. I saw her carrying paintings down the stairs many times. Such a caring friend. My hands tighten around the mug. Did she ever mention what happened to me after I moved? Mrs. Geller frowns. She said you'd had some kind of breakdown, moved upstate to recover. We were all so worried. I thank Mrs. Geller and leave with my mind racing. Back in my tiny studio apartment, I search for Amanda on social media. Her Instagram is filled with gallery openings, art world parties, and behind-the-scenes glimpses of Catherine Morris exhibitions. In one photo from 2020, she's standing beside Winter Morning, champagne glass in hand, celebrating its acquisition by a prominent collector. I scroll until my eyes burn, taking screenshots of everything. There's a pattern here. She started posting about discovering an unknown artist right after my sister died, when I was at my lowest, when I was selling everything just to survive. I lie in bed that night, unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling. 6 years of my work, my grief, my processing of my sister's death all stolen, renamed, repackaged as the creation of a fictional dead woman, and selling for amounts that could have changed my life. Tomorrow I'll visit another gallery showing Catherine Morris works. I need more evidence, more connections. I need to understand exactly how deep this fraud goes. I close my eyes, but all I see is my signature transformed from Kate Murphy to Kay Morris with just a few careful strokes. I wake up early the next morning with a plan. If Amanda could create a whole fake identity, so could I. I shower quickly, pulling on the nicest clothes. I own a black sweater without pills and dark jeans that could pass for dress pants in dim lighting. I dig through my makeup bag for products I rarely use, transforming myself into someone who looks like they could afford a $75,000 painting. The Westfield Gallery is smaller than Morrison's, tucked between a high-end clothing boutique and an artisanal coffee shop in Soho. According to their website, they're featuring 3 Catherine Morris pieces as part of a contemporary women artists showcase. My paintings, my life's work. I push through the door, adopting the confident stride of someone with money to burn. The gallery is quiet, just a few patrons drifting between displays. I spot my work immediately, a triptych of urban landscapes I painted during that brutal winter after my sister first got sick. I remember how the cold had seeped through my apartment windows as I worked, how I'd wrapped myself in blankets but kept painting through numb fingers. Beautiful work, isn't it? I turn to find a middle-aged man in a charcoal suit watching me. His name tag reads, Martin Westfield, owner. Extraordinary. I agree, forcing a smile. The technique is remarkable. I'm particularly drawn to these urban pieces. You have an excellent eye, Martin says, clearly pleased. Catherine Morris was a remarkable talent. Such a tragic story. I tilt my head, feigning curiosity while my heart hammers against my ribs. I'm not familiar with her background. I only recently discovered her work. Martin gestures toward a small seating area. Please, let me tell you about her. Are you interested in acquiring one of her pieces? They're becoming quite valuable. I might be, I say, following him to a pair of leather chairs. I'm looking to diversify my collection. The lie comes easily. Martin signals to an assistant who brings us espresso in tiny porcelain cups. Catherine Morris was a promising artist who suffered a mental breakdown after her sister's death in 2019. Martin begins, his voice taking on a rehearsed quality. She created these extraordinary works in a brief period of intense creativity before her condition deteriorated. I grip my espresso cup tighter. What happened to her? She abandoned her art completely, moved upstate to some facility. She died in 2021 suicide, I believe. Such a waste of talent. He shakes his head with practiced sadness. Her work was discovered by a friend who recognized its value and brought it to the attention of the art world. This friend, I say carefully, they must have been close to her. Amanda Reeves, Martin says, brightening. Lovely young woman. She was Morris's neighbor and confidant. When Catherine's mental health declined, Amanda saved her work from being discarded. She's the executor of Morris's artistic estate now. I nod slowly, rage building behind my careful mask. How fortunate that she recognized the value. Indeed, the Morris collection has appreciated remarkably. These pieces, he gestures to my triptych, are priced at $68,000 each, but I sense they'll reach 6 figures by year's end. We discuss the Morris collection for another 20 minutes. I learn that Amanda Amanda has systematically sold nearly 30 of my paintings over the past 2 years, creating an elaborate backstory about a troubled artist who created brilliant work before her tragic end. I leave with Martin's business card and a promise to consider the investment opportunity. Outside, I lean against the building, trying to breathe through the fury and betrayal crushing my chest. My next stop is the storage facility, where I'd kept the paintings I couldn't fit in my tiny apartment. I'd fallen behind on payments after my sister died, but I'd eventually caught up. The storage manager recognizes me when I walk in. "Miss Murphy, haven't seen you in a while." "Hi, Jerry. I need to check on my unit." He frowns, tapping at his computer. "Unit 217? That was cleared out almost 2 years ago." My stomach drops. "What? By who?" "Let me check." "Ah, yes. Amanda Reeves. She had your written authorization." He turns the screen, showing me a form with my supposed signature at the bottom. It's close, but not quite right, just like the K. Morris signature on my paintings. "When exactly was this?" "April 2021. She said you'd moved upstate and couldn't come yourself." "April 2021, 3 months after my sister died. When I was barely functioning, working double shifts at the diner to make rent, sleeping on a friend's couch because I couldn't face our empty apartment." I thank Jerry and leave, my mind racing. On the subway back to my neighborhood, I search for Catherine Morris obituary on my phone. There it is, a brief notice in an upstate newspaper dated September 2021, describing the passing of local artist Catherine Morris, 29, after a long struggle with mental illness. My own death, neatly documented. Back in my apartment, I call every law firm I can find that specializes in art fraud. Most receptionists politely explain they don't take cases without retainers ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. Finally, I reach Diane Levinson, who agrees to meet me for a consultation. "This is a complex case," she tells me in her cramped office the next day, after I've explained everything. "Identity theft, fraud, copyright infringement. The fact that she's created this elaborate fiction about your death complicates things further. Can I prove these are my paintings?" Diane sighs. "It won't be easy. Do you have any documentation? Photos of you creating the work? Preliminary sketches? Receipts for art supplies?" I shake my head. I wasn't thinking about proving ownership. I was just painting. "What about witnesses? Anyone who saw you working?" "My sister," I say quietly, "but she's gone." Diane's expression softens. "I'm sorry. What about the buyers? The people who originally purchased your work?" "Most were cash transactions at small markets or through social media. I didn't keep records." She taps her pen against her legal pad. "This Amanda person, she's systematically stolen your entire portfolio and created a fictional artist with a tragic backstory to increase value. It's actually quite brilliant, in a sociopathic way. Her family has connections." I remember suddenly. Her father mentioned once that her uncle was involved with galleries downtown. That must be how she got her foot in the door. Diane nods. "Art fraud often involves networks of people. The galleries may be unwitting participants, or they might suspect something but look the other way because the sales are profitable." I leave Diane's office with a plan to gather what evidence I can. She's agreed to help me for a reduced rate, with payment contingent on recovery of damages. That night, I dig through old emails, searching for anything that might prove my identity as the artist. In a forgotten folder, I find messages from my sister with attachments of photos she'd taken of me working. They're not high quality, mostly candid shots where I'm focused on a canvas, but they show me with paintings that are now being sold as Catherine Morris works. I also find something else, a social media post from Amanda dated January 2019, showing her in my apartment while I painted. The caption reads, "Watching a master at work. Kate's Winter Morning series is going to be amazing." Winter Morning, the painting from the Morrison Gallery, the one that started all this. I save everything, my hands shaking with a mixture of rage and vindication. Amanda didn't just steal my art, she stole my life, my story, my grief. She transformed my pain into profit, erasing me completely. Tomorrow, I'll find out where Amanda is. It's time for a confrontation. I spend the rest of the day researching Amanda, tracking her social media like a detective. My obsession pays off when I find an event listing for tonight, a private art fundraiser at the Bellamy Hotel downtown. The caption reads, "Excited to represent the Catherine Morris estate at tonight's Contemporary Vision Gala. Art World Morris Legacy." There's no way I can afford a ticket to something like this. The listed price is $500 per person, and that's probably the cheap seats. I stare at my bank account balance, $267.43, and feel a familiar desperation creeping in. Then I notice something in the event details. Catering by Lux Events. 20 minutes and several phone calls later, I've learned that Lux Events is desperately short-staffed for tonight. One quick lie about having previous experience, and I'm hired as a last-minute server. The pay is terrible, but that's not why I'm going. 3 hours later, I'm dressed in the black pants and white button-down shirt that are the uniform of catering staff everywhere. My hair is pulled back in a tight bun, and I've kept my makeup minimal. The goal is to blend in, to become invisible, until the moment I choose not to be. The Bellamy's Grand Ballroom is transformed for the event, with soft lighting and elaborate floral arrangements. Wealthy patrons in designer clothes mill about, champagne flutes in hand, examining the art displays positioned around the room. I spot 3 of my paintings, immediately pieces from my Urban Solitude series that I created during the worst winter of my life, when my sister's condition had deteriorated rapidly. I move through the crowd with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, scanning faces, until I finally see her. Amanda. She's wearing a sleek black dress, her blonde hair styled in loose waves. She looks confident, radiant, successful, everything I'm not. My hands shake slightly, and I have to steady the tray. For an hour, I watch her work the room, chatting with gallery owners and collectors, laughing at their jokes, touching arms familiarly. She's completely in her element, having built an entire career on my stolen work. I wait until she excuses herself from a group and heads toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. Setting down my tray at a service station, I follow her, heart pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. She's alone now, checking her phone, a slight frown creasing her forehead. "Hello, Amanda." She looks up, confusion flickering across her face before recognition dawns. Her eyes widen, then narrow. Kate, what are you doing here? Interesting question, I say, keeping my voice low. I could ask you the same thing since you're selling my paintings under a fake name. She glances around, checking if anyone is within earshot. This isn't the place for this conversation. Really? Because I think it's perfect. All these people who believe Catherine Morris was a real person should know they've been lied to. Amanda grabs my arm, her fingers digging in painfully as she steers me toward a service door. 5 minutes. That's all you get. We end up in a small prep kitchen, currently empty, as the servers are all circulating with trays. I pull my phone from my pocket and switch on the recording app, keeping it partially hidden in my hand. You stole my work, I say once the door closes behind us. You created a fake identity using my paintings. Amanda's posture changes, her shoulders squaring. I saved your work. You were a mess after your sister died. You were going to throw everything away. That wasn't your decision to make. You took my paintings from my storage unit. You forged my signature to get them. She shrugs, unrepentant. You weren't using them. You were working at a diner, for God's sake. These pieces deserve to be seen. Under my name, not some fictional dead artist you invented. Catherine Morris is more marketable than Kate Murphy, she says coolly. The tragic backstory, the limited collection, it creates value. These paintings are selling for tens of thousands now. Would that have happened with you as the artist? A nobody with no connections, no education, no story? My hands are shaking with rage. You stole my identity, my work, my sister's memory. I elevated your work. I made it valuable. She steps closer, her voice softening slightly. Look, I understand you're upset, but think about this rationally. The work is out there now. People love it. Isn't that what you wanted? I wanted credit for my own creations. Fine. What do you want? Money? Her eyes narrow calculatingly. I can arrange something. 20,000? 30? That's more than you'd have made selling them at street fairs. I almost laugh at the insult of it. The Winter Morning piece alone sold for $75,000, and it required connections and expertise to make that happen. She snaps. Connections you don't have. I want my name on my work. I want the truth to come out. Amanda's face hardens. That's not going to happen. Catherine Morris has a reputation now. Galleries have invested in her story. Collectors have purchased her work. Do you have any idea what would happen if the truth came out? The scandal would make these paintings worthless. That's not my problem. Actually, it is. She pulls out her phone, scrolling quickly before holding it up to show me a document. You signed over the rights to your work 2 years ago. Full transfer of ownership. I stare at the contract on her screen, my signature at the bottom. It's a good forgery, better than the one on my paintings. That's fake. I never signed anything. Prove it, she challenges. Because I have the original, notarized, and legally binding. Before I can respond, the door swings open. A security guard stands there, looking between us. Is there a problem here? Amanda's demeanor changes instantly, her eyes filling with tears. Yes, this woman is harassing me. She's not supposed to be here. I'm staff, I protest, showing my catering badge. The guard frowns. Ma'am, I just spoke with the catering manager. They don't know who you are. My stomach drops. Amanda must have alerted security while I was tracking her through the ballroom. She's been following me all evening, Amanda continues, her voice trembling perfectly. She's mentally unstable. She thinks my client's artwork belongs to her. The guard takes my arm firmly. Ma'am, I'm going to have to escort you out. She's lying. I try to pull away, but his grip tightens. She stole my paintings. She created a fake artist. Please don't make a scene, the guard says quietly. Come with me now, or I'll have to call the police. As he leads me toward the exit, Amanda follows a few steps behind. When we reach the service entrance, she leans close to whisper in my ear. If you pursue this, I'll sue you for defamation, harassment, and fraud. My family has very good lawyers, Kate. Very expensive lawyers. Do you really want to go down that road? The guard pushes the door open, and the cold night air hits me like a slap. Don't come back, he warns, releasing my arm once we're outside. I stand there, shivering in my thin server's shirt. As the door closes behind me, my phone is still recording in my hand, and I realize I have Amanda's admission that she changed my signature, that she created the Catherine Morris persona. It's something, at least. But when I check my contacts the next day, the art world doors that had started to crack open begin slamming shut. The gallery owner who'd seemed interested in hearing my story doesn't return my calls. The journalist who initially responded to my email now says she's too busy to meet. Even Diane, my lawyer, sounds hesitant when I call her. I've been doing some research, she says carefully. Amanda Reeves' family is very well connected in the art world. Her uncle sits on the board of the Metropolitan Museum. Her father is a major donor to several galleries. But I have evidence, I insist, telling her about the recording, which you obtained without consent, which may make it inadmissible, she points out. And if there really is a signed contract, even a forged one, this becomes much more complicated. I hang up feeling more alone than ever. That evening, I receive an email from an address I don't recognize. The subject line reads simply, "Final warning." The message contains a single PDF attachment, a copy of the contract Amanda showed me, with my forged signature at the bottom, transferring all rights to my artwork to her. The email text is brief. Pursuing this further will only hurt you. Be smart. I stare at the screen, tears of frustration burning my eyes. Amanda has stolen everything from me, my art, my identity, even my grief over my sister. She's transformed my pain into profit and left me with nothing but a threat. But as I scroll through the contract, studying the forgery of my signature, I notice something. The date on the document is the 15th of January 2021, 2 weeks after my sister died, and I suddenly remember something my sister had done in her final days, something that might just save me now. I stare at the forged contract on my screen, the date burning into my retinas, the 15th of January 2021, 2 weeks after my sister died. Something clicks in my mind, a memory surfacing through the fog of grief that's clouded the last 2 years. My sister, always the practical one, always looking out for me even as cancer ravaged her body. The emails, I whisper to my empty apartment. In her final weeks, as she grew weaker, my sister had become obsessed with documenting everything, just in case, she'd say, her voice thin but determined. She'd insisted on photographing my paintings, my process, my signatures capturing high-resolution images of everything I created. did. I scramble for my laptop, fingers trembling as I enter the password to my sister's email account. She'd made me memorize it during those last days in the hospital. "You'll need this someday," she'd said, and I'd nodded, humoring her, thinking it was just the pain medication talking. The account is still active, untouched since her death. I scan through folders, finally finding one labeled Kate's Art Backup. Inside are hundreds of emails, meticulously organized by date and painting series. Each contains multiple high-resolution photos, not just of the finished paintings, but of me working on them, close-ups of my signature, even receipts for art supplies. My hands shake as I open an email from December 2018. There I am, working on Winter Morning, my hair pulled back in a messy bun, paint smudged across my cheek. The next photo shows a close-up of my signature Kate Murphy, clear as day. The timestamp and metadata are all intact. "Thank you," I whisper, tears streaming down my face. "Thank you for being smarter than me." I spend the next 6 hours downloading everything, organizing the evidence chronologically. By dawn, I have irrefutable proof that I created every painting now being sold under Catherine Morris's name. The timestamps and metadata in the photos predate Amanda's entire fraudulent timeline. With renewed determination, I search online for journalists specializing in art fraud. One name keeps appearing in major exposés: Victor Ramirez at the Art Observer. His articles have brought down several high-profile scammers in the industry. I draft an email, attaching a small sample of my evidence, and hit send before I can second-guess myself. To my surprise, he responds within hours. "This is compelling," his email reads. "If what you're saying is true, this could be one of the most brazen art frauds I've documented. Can we meet tomorrow?" We arrange to meet at a coffee shop far from the gallery district. Victor is younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes that miss nothing, as I spread out printouts of my sister's emails across the table. "So Amanda Reeves essentially erased you and created a fictional dead artist to sell your work," he summarizes after I've explained everything. "And she's made what, hundreds of thousands from this scheme?" "At least," I say. "The Winter Morning piece alone sold for $75,000. I originally sold it to her for $800. Victor whistles low. "And you have proof of that original sale?" I slide over a printout of a Venmo transaction from January 2019. "Amanda, to me, $800, with Winter Morning painting in the description. She wasn't even careful at the beginning," I explain. "She didn't plan this initially. It was only after my sister died and I was not functioning well that she saw an opportunity." Victor photographs everything, taking detailed notes. "The high-res images your sister took are crucial," he says. "They clearly show your signature before it was altered to K. Morris. And the metadata timestamps can't be faked easily." 3 days later, the Art Observer publishes Victor's article, "The Woman Who Didn't Die: How a Grieving Artist's Work Was Stolen and Rebranded." The piece details Amanda's elaborate fraud, including side-by-side comparisons of my original signatures and the altered K. Morris versions. It includes quotes from authentication experts, confirming that my artistic style predates the fictional Catherine Morris timeline. The story explodes. Other art publications pick it up, then mainstream media. My phone rings constantly with journalists seeking interviews. My inbox fills with messages from gallery owners who suddenly remember meeting me years ago. Most surprising are the emails from other artists sharing similar stories. Work stolen, identities appropriated, careers hijacked by those with connections. Some reach out to thank me for speaking up, for exposing a problem that's apparently widespread in the industry. 5 days after the article publishes, I receive a call from Diane, my lawyer. "Amanda Reeves booked a flight to Paris yesterday," she tells me. "One-way ticket. The FBI's art crime team has been notified this crosses into federal territory now with the interstate sales and fraud amounts." "Is she going to get away?" I ask, panic rising in my throat. "No," Diane says firmly. "They're monitoring her." "And Kate?" "The Morrison Gallery called. They want to meet with us tomorrow to discuss making things right." The meeting is surreal. The same gallery manager who dismissed me as mentally unstable now can't meet my eyes as she slides a document across the table, a formal acknowledgement that I am the true artist behind all works previously attributed to Catherine Morris. They've removed the paintings from display and are offering to host an exhibition of my work under my real name. "We were misled," she says, her voice carefully neutral. "We had no idea about Miss Reeves's deception." I don't believe her, but I sign the agreement anyway. Similar meetings follow with other galleries. By the end of the month, Amanda is arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport attempting to board a connecting flight to Greece. The charges include fraud, identity theft, and interstate transportation of stolen property. The legal proceedings drag on for months, but eventually, a settlement is reached. I receive substantial compensation for the paintings already sold, plus rights to all remaining works. The money feels almost surreal after years of struggling to pay rent. 6 months after Victor's article, I stand in a small storefront in Brooklyn, watching as workers install track lighting. The sign above the door reads simply, "Murphy Gallery." It's nothing fancy, just a clean, well-lit space where I can show my work and that of other emerging artists who might otherwise be exploited. My first exhibition opens next week. The centerpiece is a new painting I've been working on for months, a simple coffee cup on a windowsill, sunlight catching the rim. It was my sister's favorite mug, the one she used every morning until she couldn't anymore. Behind it, reflected in the window glass, is her face, smiling. I've titled it Reclamation. My signature Kate Murphy is bold and clear in the corner, impossible to mistake or alter. As I stand back, examining the hanging, my phone buzzes with a text from Victor. "Just heard Amanda's sentencing is tomorrow. Want company at the courthouse?" I type back a quick response. "No need, I'm busy hanging my show." Then I put my phone away and return to adjusting the lighting, making sure each painting is perfectly illuminated. Amanda took 2 years of my life. She doesn't get another minute.